So I was prepared to start today with an ESPN.com article, but I've decided to postpone that to the second hour because we've got news, kind of, regarding LSU's quarterback and his health. Brian Kelly doesn't meet with the media much this week, does not have his normal does not have his normal Monday press conference, does not have his normal Thursday press conference, as there is no game this weekend, but he does still take his 10 minutes on the SEC coaches teleconference. And today, he took a couple of questions about the health of his quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, the first of which came from our friend Shay Dixon at On3, was asking about the rumors that Nussmeier might need surgery and whether or not he could respond to any of that. And this is what Brian Kelly had to say.
That's misinformation. Those are not based on any facts. They're quite silly, actually. And I know you have to ask the question because people want to know, but this is misinformation. Yeah, early on, he had an ab strain, not a core injury in terms of what a core injury that we deal with. And it's been slow to heal. But as I have mentioned, he's on the backside of that. And he's getting rest this week. And he'll be the Garrett Nussmeier that he needs to be as we get into the very difficult part of our schedule.
There are two pieces to this. One is the answer and the way that LSU's handled this in the media, and two is the quarterback. And only one of those is really important. Of course, that's the quarterback. But let me get the media side of this out of the way first. LSU, this is my opinion, but it's based in quite a bit of fact at this point. Garrett Nussmeier got hurt in August, and LSU didn't really want anybody to know about that. So Garrett Nussmeier has not been listed on any injury reports. If he doesn't miss any practice or is not limited in practice, and I use air quotes with that, he doesn't have to be listed on an injury report. And when you play a non-conference game, it doesn't have to be on there. So they didn't publicize that in any way. When the media asked about Garrett Nussmeier not throwing in those two practices that we saw him not throw in, Brian Kelly lied. He said, yeah, it's just load management, which in a way, I guess it is load management because you're monitoring an injury. But it was rooted in injury, not just, yeah, he's throwing a little bit too much. And I've been very honest about this. I'm fine with that. To me, Clemson has no right to know about LSU's quarterback's injury. To me, Joe Fan has no right to know about LSU's quarterback injury. That's an internal thing, in my opinion. If you're a fan and you feel differently, that's okay. We just disagree, which is completely fine. But I don't think LSU has any obligation to divulge that to Clemson or Louisiana Tech or Southeastern. Now, the SEC says, we got a league game, you will tell us about your availability in practice. And if Garrett Nussmeier went through practice and was out there in pads, going through reps, then you don't have to put him on the report. But LSU kept this secret. And because of that, you have significant questions surrounding the injury. Nobody's asking any questions about Trey'Dez Green's injury. Nobody's asking any questions about Caden Durham's injury because LSU came out and said, Trey'Dez Green has a sprained knee. He's going to be day-to-day and questionable. And he didn't play, and then he didn't play, and then he came out and played. And Caden Durham, well, yeah, he sprained his ankle. It's not a high ankle sprain. We're going to see what he can do. He's questionable, might play, might not, game day, didn't play. Nobody asks any questions. But when you don't talk about an injury and you use the vague term like, yeah, it's a torso issue, you welcome questions. And it was right of Shay Dixon to ask the question, and I thought Brian Kelly answered it just fine today. Yep, it's an ab strain. It's slow to heal. He's on the back end of it. You're going to see the real Garrett Nussmeier moving forward. And so as far as the media aspect of this goes, I don't think anybody has played foul here. LSU has opened questions because of their vague answers, and that's Brian Kelly I'm speaking about specifically. But the bigger question is like, what's the deal with the quarterback? And here's my stance on this. I understand the business that I'm in. I understand that there is value in strong opinions, that there is value in animated approaches to things. I live in the world where we look to try to get social media views. We look to try to get YouTube views. We certainly want you to listen on the radio. And it is more interesting for me to get up here, whether I'm right or wrong, and go, they're lying about the quarterback. He's clearly hurt. They shouldn't have played him against Southeastern. It's ridiculous. They need a running quarterback anyway because the running game stinks. They need to get Van Buren back there. They can't run the ball. The coach isn't paying attention, and he's lying into the media, and to rant and rave and go through all these things about what should and should not be done in the handling of Garrett Nussmeier's injury. And I could do all that. I'm very capable of doing that. Here's where I come from. I have no idea what Garrett Nussmeier feels like when he gets out of bed, when he's on the practice field, when he gets ready to go play a game. I have no idea. I have no idea what the doctors know about what is wrong with his torso, core, ab, oblique, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the doctors know. I don't know what the treatment plan has been. I don't know when it started. I don't know how it feels today. I don't know when it got better. I don't know when it got worse. I told you the one thing that I found out. I found out they thought it had been worsened the Louisiana Tech week. That's the only thing I know. So I spoke to that. I don't know what he feels like today. I don't know how much he's practicing this week. I don't know whether or not he's at a significant risk of aggravating it. I don't know what specifically aggravates it. I don't know if it's every throw or just when he throws a certain way or just when he throws out to the right or just when he throws it hard or just when he gets hit. I have no idea. So for me to sit here and try to speak out of any sort of position of authority on this would just be ridiculous. What I know is that he got hurt, he's been nursing it, and the offensive production stinks. And I don't know to what degree those two things are directly correlated. Maybe the offense stinks partly because Garrett Nussmeier's hurt, partly because you lost 4 offensive linemen and the other one doesn't play as much and you don't pass protect as well, partly because the running game's not any good, partly because Caden Durham was hurt, partly because Trey Green was hurt, partly because these wide receivers aren't getting enough separation, partly because the defense is dropping 8 and only putting 3 down, partly because they're getting a pass rush with 3 guys. Like, it's probably just a lot of everything. And I can't speak to you as to when Garrett Nussmeier is going to be 100% or if that's a possibility with this injury that I don't know anything about between August and Christmas. I don't know. So it makes it really difficult to sit here and speak in any sort of absolute, with any sort of direct knowledge, with any sort of conviction when there's just so much gray area. I think the only way we'll really know is one of two things. One, Garrett Nussmeier just flat doesn't play against South Carolina. And based on what the coach said 2 hours ago, that ain't happening. Because he said it's misinformation to suggest surgery is required. He's on the back end of it. He's preparing. He's practicing. He's getting rest this week. And there's no indication from anyone else he's not going to play against South Carolina. So you don't get that avenue of knowing. So there's the other side that it's better. And if it's better, then he completes a couple 50-yard passes. And he throws for 340 yards. And the offense looks more functional than it is right now. Now, saying that, I am fully self-aware to tell you that after the game against Southeastern, I came on here and said the quarterback looked healthy. He made a couple of throws that had some zip on them, got the ball a little bit further down the field. I don't care that Southeastern can't play defense. I just feel like he looked healthier. And then they came out against Ole Miss, and Chris Hilton got 10 yards behind the defense, and he grossly underthrew him, and they couldn't move the ball either on the ground or through the air. So I say all of this and go all the way around this topic to suggest it's very difficult for me, as someone who's analyzing this football team, to give you any hard and fast thoughts. I can try to connect dots, and I can be hopeful. But I just can't tell you, unless Garrett Nussmeier wants to come out and be very open about this, as opposed to the answer, which was, I don't want to talk about my health tonight, we're just not going to really know. I can speak in absolutes when I say this. If they play offense for the rest of the season like they played offense the first 5 weeks, they're going to lose 4 or 5 games. I can tell you that. But my sincere hope is that they don't. And if you want to go to the opposite end of the spectrum, from the 4 or 5 losses to making the playoff, he's going to have to get healthier than he is and play a whole lot better. And I cannot sit here and tell you when that can happen. Can it happen against South Carolina? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Vanderbilt? I don't know. Arkansas? ought to go nuts against that defense. They're atrocious. Does the next bye week help? You're going to need that to get ready for Bama. Like, there's just not a lot out there. And I'm okay with that. I don't need the information. But I can't give you an honest assessment. And I feel like there's a lot of people, not media people specifically, like just people in the LSU ecosystem here, whether you've got a Twitter profile or a group text or call into a radio show or have an opinion somewhere somehow, that feel like that LSU is grossly mismanaging this or they've got to make a quarterback change. And I feel like you're likely making those claims with as much information as I have, which is very, very, very little. And I just think that's a dangerous thing to do when you don't know. You feel like, well, they're not playing well and they lost a game. Somebody's got to be held accountable for this. To me, you just sit back and hope, hey, I hope this guy gets better. And that's where I stand on this whole issue. There's just not a lot more to say about it this bye week. You're not going to get anything else from Brian Kelly. Someone will ask him about it on Monday, and he will suggest whether or not Garrett Nussmeier is feeling better or worse. And based on the answers that we've gotten for the last 6 weeks now, I don't put any stock whatsoever in the answer that he gives on Monday, in the answer that he gives on Wednesday of next week in the teleconference, and in the answer that he gives on Thursday next week in the press conference and his coach's show. I don't put any stock into it. I just need to see it with my own eyes with Garrett Nussmeier. And that's the next time we can truly assess how he's feeling, how he's playing, and what the ceiling is for this LSU team. Because without him healthy, the ceiling crashes south. With him healthy and improving, ceiling rises a little bit. We'll see. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.